This is a big win for us. Definitely did do my part tonight. But yeah, I feel very fortunate to have the teammates that I do, to be in the locker room and the coaching staff that I do.
I just played like a week ago, so I mean, that happens.
Monday Night Football was one of the most exhilarating games I ever had the honor of watching. Despite the all-world performance we saw by the Dallas Cowboys, beating an opponent that they've never been able to defeat in Tom Brady, there was one little problem that definitely has the potential to sabotage the Cowboys season, and I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about the way they're trying to solve it. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. If you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, I post my daily prize picks on my Instagram story, and you can also see how often I've been watching the Dallas Cowboys Buccaneers highlights from Monday Night Football. And now that we get all that out of the way, break! You know what absolutely crushes my soul? Whenever I carefully and meticulously make multiple picks, and let's say 3 out of my 4 players hit, and my 4th player unfortunately didn't even play in the second half of the game or left the game early. And as a result, I lose my money.
That wasn't very nice.
Which is why PrizePicks is now protecting all of us from that happening ever again. Introducing Reboot. If you happen to ever pick more on a player's projection, and that player leaves the game in the first half, and he doesn't return in the second half, then PrizePicks will automatically disqualify that player. So let's say I chose 3 players and picked more on all of them, and one of those players has to leave the game, unfortunately due to an injury, and doesn't return in the second half. Then my 3 picks will automatically turn into 2 picks. I play PrizePicks every single day, and I post my picks onto my Instagram story. And right now, PrizePicks is willing to match up to $100 of your deposit when you use my promo code Mikerophone. So use my promo code right now. Let's win some money together. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? You guys already know, historically, I've just been a very pessimistic Cowboy fan, and that's really shown this past season. I don't necessarily think a lot of you guys blame me either, considering that I had to live through the Dave Campo and Quincy Carter era, the Chad Hutchinson era. The Bill Parcells era was a little bit better, where they had Drew Bledsoe and Vinny Testaverde as their quarterbacks, leading all the way up to the Tony Romo and Des Bryant era, and now I am enjoying the Dak Prescott era, which, to be honest, out of all those eras, I think I like this one the best. And hopefully, if they ever win a Super Bowl, I could take down one of these jerseys and put up a Dak Prescott or Micah Parsons signed jersey instead. For those of you guys wondering, the reason why a Cowboys jersey isn't behind me is I usually wait for a very significant era in my favorite team that I got to witness and experience to have it commemorated on the wall. So as a kid, I watched a lot of Laker games, and I grew up as a Laker fan. When I moved to Los Angeles, I got to watch the late great Kobe Bryant, and he's really inspired me, so that's the reason why his jersey's behind me. But I digress. Despite the all-world performance that Dak Prescott put up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady, who was gloating about the fact that he was undefeated against the Cowboys.
Are you 6-0 versus Cowboys? I know you know that too. Well, just because I looked at it this week.
There was just one problem. You see, following the Dallas Cowboys' first touchdown, they trotted out their kicker, Brett Maher, who proceeded to do something that was really terrifying for Dallas Cowboys fans. And ultimately, it was a non-factor, thankfully, and it even resulted in the Cowboys scoring an additional touchdown on 4th and 4 towards the end of the game. But this is very concerning, particularly if you happen to have been a football fan during the 1998 season and saw what happened to the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC Championship. You'd understand why Brett Maher's yips are a little terrifying. For those of you guys that don't know, Brett Maher has extensive experience as a kicker with the Dallas Cowboys. Although he recently bursted on the scene a couple years ago in his first full season as a starting kicker in the NFL, Brett Maher was actually on the Cowboys a decade ago. Cowboys brought him in during preseason to kick when Dan Money Bailey was recovering from an injury. So in 2013, he was on the Cowboys for about 2 weeks. He was released on August 27th, and then he had a stint in the CFL before getting signed to the Cleveland Browns on March of 2017. He got released once again, went back to the CFL, and this is where Cowboys fans know him at first. The Cowboys signed him during the 2018 season, so when they moved on from Dan Bailey. There was this whole contract dispute with Dan Bailey, and the Cowboys just let him go, and Dan Money Bailey ended up fizzling out of the NFL. It all started in April 2018. Cowboys signed Maher to limit Dan Bailey's offseason workload. He made 4 out of his 5 field goal attempts in the preseason. He hit 2 45-yarders and a 57-yard field goal. And as a result of this, the Cowboys felt he'd be a cheaper alternative and would give them the same production as Dan Bailey would, which is a huge compliment to any kicker. Dan Bailey was on fire back then. Now, in the 2018 season, Brett Maher was pretty solid. He had games where he hit 4 kicks in a game. He hit game winners. He had a game winner versus the Detroit Lions in week 4. He converted 4 field goals on October 14th versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, including a 55-yarder. He had a game in week 16 where he converted 2 field goals, including the second longest in franchise history, and 3 extra points in a 27-20 win versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This gave him NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. And for the most part, in his first season with the Cowboys, he went 29 of 36, 80.6% on field goals, and he only missed 1 extra point. He was 32 of 33 on extra points. He also had 67.5% touchbacks on his kickoffs, and he was top 10 in the NFL with 29 field goals and tied for the most field goals of at least 50 yards, which was 6, which was also a franchise record for a single season. So for the most part, in 2018, he showed that he was a pretty damn good kicker, so the Cowboys brought him back in 2019. Now, in 2019, tell me if this sounds familiar, Brett Maher had some issues with accuracy. But despite accuracy issues, pay attention to this, because they're currently in a very similar situation. The Dallas Cowboys showed confidence in Brett Maher's ability by not bringing in another kicker to compete with him. To be honest, Brett Maher still had moments of brilliance on October 13th. In a loss versus the New York Jets, he became the first kicker in NFL history to have made 2 field goals of 62 or more yards in a career. Bear in mind, prior to Justin Tucker, the record for longest kick was 63 yards by Jason Elam of the Denver Broncos. So hitting 2 field goals of 62 plus is insane. But at the same time, he had accuracy issues at times, because 1 week prior to that, he made only 1 out of 3 of his field goal attempts versus the Green Bay Packers. On October 20th, he set a new career long and tied Jason Elam with a 63-yard field goal versus the Philadelphia Eagles. In that game, he hit all 4 of his extra points and all 3 of his field goals. The storyline about Maher is he kept struggling during the season with accuracy issues, and the Cowboys were patient. They said let him just play through it and he'll get through it. But on November 28th, he missed 2 field goals, one of them being deflected versus the Buffalo Bills. On December 5th, he missed a 42-yard field goal in a loss versus the Chicago Bears. This would be his 10th miss of the season, and he'll also hit a kickoff out of bounds early in the 4th quarter, which would allow the Mitchell Trubisky-led Chicago Bears to take over at their own 40-yard line. The worst part is after that, he said, "I felt like I hit every ball pretty well tonight. I'll put my head on the pillow tonight, feeling good about what I did this week and moving forward." The Cowboys had enough at this point. On December 3rd, they said, okay, we're on a losing streak. We're at risk of missing the playoffs. We can't take any risks, and Maher would get released due to accuracy concerns. During this season, Brett Maher would go 20 of 30 for field goals, 7 of 13 on attempts between 30 and 49 yards. He would miss at least 1 attempt in 8 of 13 games, and he would make all of his extra points. He also set NFL career and season records for most field goals made over 60 yards, and he would get replaced by Kai Forbath. You wouldn't hear about Brett Maher past that point. This is where the Dallas Cowboys brought in John Fossil and Greg the Leg Zuerlein from the Los Angeles Rams, and after a couple of years of Greg the Leg no longer being Greg the Leg, they decided to bring back Brett Maher. That's where we are today, and to his credit, Brett Maher had a pretty solid season. He hit all 4 of his field goals against the Washington Commanders in October, all 4 of his field goals against the Minnesota Vikings when the Cowboys dominated the Vikings late in November, one of those kicks being a 60-yard field goal. Maher also became the first kicker in NFL history to convert 4 field goals from 60 or more yards. And this brings us to where we are right now, because as you guys saw on Monday Night Football versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Brett Maher didn't miss 1 or 2 or 3, he missed 4 extra points. By the second extra point, Dak Prescott was banging his helmet on the sideline, and rightfully so. I mean, if I'm Dak Prescott, I'd be very, very frustrated as a result of Brett Maher's performance. And in Dak Prescott's mind, you have to bear in mind, I don't necessarily feel this way, but Dak does. He felt like the way his season ended last year was really bad. Dak Prescott wouldn't stop there, because he was also mic'd up throughout the game. And throughout the game, he even said that the Cowboys should go for 2 and just give up on Maher. Dak Prescott would actually address what he said in an interview later on that week.
I'm Money Maher's biggest fan. Yeah, I mean, I talked to him individually, told him after the game, hey, let that go, we're gonna need it. I just played like a week ago, so I mean, that happens. Knowing what that guy's done, what resiliency he's shown throughout his career, personally, no doubt that he'll come back next week and be perfect and help us win.
And to be honest, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. If I'm the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, my kicker was missing 4 straight extra points, I probably would react in a similar way. To CeeDee Lamb's credit, he showed Brett Maher tremendous amounts of love. This is what CeeDee Lamb had to say throughout the game.
We're behind you, bro. You good? You good, fam. You good.
And he even mentioned how Brett Maher has bailed out the Dallas Cowboys at points.
You done bailed us out hella time. We with you, bro.
Which obviously alleviated some concerns from Brett Maher.
Promise you, we with you. Yeah, for sure.
When the Cowboys special teams coach was asked what's going down, John Fossil, who is a legend in this industry by the way, said that Brett Maher just had the yips.
Distraught, like I am. I share in all the players' agony. So, like he should be as a competitor. You know, he knows that just a bad day at the office and full confidence he'll rebound.
Mike McCarthy said, I think the biggest thing is just to make sure you got a good plan with Brett moving forward. We're going to forge ahead. So that, as of right now, that's the plan. The qualifying phrase as of right now seemed notable. When John Fossil was asked if Brett Maher was going to be the kicker moving forward, he said, hell yeah. If you ask me, absolutely. So it seems like the Cowboys are claiming that they have tremendous faith in Brett Maher and they're going to let him ride this situation out once again. As a matter of fact, as of Tuesday evening, the Cowboys did not plan to drastically change Brett Maher's practice week or game day operation. The person with knowledge of the plan confirmed to Yahoo Sports. The person spoke on condition of anonymity. They were not authorized to publicly disclose details of the team's game plan. The Maher's next designated kicking time is going to come on Thursday and Friday. And Fossil even said this week will give him confidence just getting back out there. He's probably going to be mentally hurting pretty bad until he can kind of sweat and kick again. There's no medicine like being back on the practice field. I'm optimistic. A good professional man who really gives a damn leads me to be optimistic about a good rebound. We all want it. To be honest with you, as a coach, I kind of live for these moments, to play more psychologist than coach. Get back in the meeting rooms and find a way to help these guys bounce back. So it sounds like the Cowboys have a lot of faith in Brett Maher, and I do agree. Kicking is very psychological. I'm sure Brett Maher is going to do fine in practice because he's not going to have the pressure of the Dallas Cowboys divisional game on his shoulders versus the opponent that knocked him out of the playoffs last year. But despite the Cowboys claiming that they have faith in Brett Maher, it seems like they're bringing in a backup kicker just in case. So according to Todd Archer, Dallas Cowboys signed kicker Tristan Vizcaino amidst Brett Maher's woes, which is very interesting, and I'll tell you why in just a sec. In this article, you have it saying Maher missed 4 extra points in Monday's wildcard game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After the game, owner and general manager Jerry Jones said Maher would continue as the kicker, and on Tuesday, head coach Mike McCarthy and special teams coordinator John Fossil backed him as well. But if Maher struggles when he kicks in practice on Thursday and Friday, the Cowboys will at least have Vizcaino ready. He spent part of the 2020 offseason with the club. So it's pretty interesting because
we believe in you, Brett. In the event that things don't go well, we have someone ready to take your place.
It's interesting because I don't think Brett Maher is going to miss kicks on Thursday and Friday. I think once the pressure of the playoffs get to him, that is when he could potentially miss kicks. Now, listen to what John Fossil says. I believe in the hot hand and I believe in the yips, absolutely. And you know, you wonder sometimes how you get into the yips and you wonder how sometimes you get back into the hot hand. I think it's keep stepping up to the line and shooting that thing. We missed some free throws on Monday. He had a hot hand. Let's face it, he only missed 6 kicks all season. The yips happen, so I expect a hot hand coming up. To Maher's credit, he made 29 of 32 field goal attempts. Those 3 misses being 2 59-yarders and a 46-yarder. He made 50 of 53 extra points, but he missed his final extra point in the regular season finale to the Washington Commanders and then 4 straight against the Buccaneers. The thing is, if your kicker is suffering from the yips, right, and the thing that causes the yips is the pressure of the situation. I mean, you're Brett Maher, you're going up against Tom Brady. The Dallas Cowboys have not won a road game in like 20 plus years. They've never beaten Tom Brady, yada, yada, yada. All of a sudden, you're being trotted out for the extra point to really set the tone against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you miss, and then you miss again, and then you miss again, and then you miss again. Okay, like by the time you get to your 3rd miss, I was kind of expecting a 4th miss because the pressure is probably driving him crazy. This whole nightmare scenario. I can understand how that's psychologically messing with you on national television, on the most popular football team in America. I could understand that. But if your kicker is suffering from the yips, does bringing in a backup kicker really help? Of course, I understand you want to hedge your bet here, but if you're a kicker kicking in the divisional after a horrible showing in your wild card game, wouldn't it be even more pressure if the Cowboys had your backup just waiting to come take your place if you end up messing up again? Is that counterproductive productive? Is that really showing faith in Brett Maher? At the same time, do you trust Brett Maher? I don't blame the Cowboys for not trusting Brett Maher in this instance, because based upon what we saw on the wildcard game, it'd be a horrible way to end the season on that note, man. Could you imagine if Brett Maher missed multiple field goals and as a result the Dallas Cowboys lost? Yeah, on 4th and 4 they were able to convert with a touchdown to CeeDee Lamb, but that was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. The San Francisco 49ers defense is a whole new animal, man. So I don't know if this is the right move or not. I could see an argument for both sides. On one hand, you want to make sure that your back is covered in the event that Brett Maher ends up crumbling again. But at the same time, wouldn't this give Brett Maher a higher chance of crumbling under the pressure, knowing that there's a kicker to take his place? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Did Brett Maher really sabotage his career by missing those 4 extra points? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.